everybody, welcome. It's Scarlet Pete Self-Sufficiency and I'm over here. Hello. And I'm at my brother kh260 knitting machine, which is capable of doing chunky yarn. I'm not sure if this yarn's a bit too chunky for it, because I've got it right off to the number 10 here, and so far it wasn't very pleasant to knit with. So I'm going to try and do a tension swatch. Let me just talk you through what I'm up to. So let's get the tension right on the top here. Let me just put that right. So why do we knit tension swatches? Well, a tension swatch, it gives us a sample of the work, the fabric that we're going to create. It's also going to tell us how many centimetres and rows make up one whole, how many stitches and rows make one whole centimetre. So once we know what a centimetre is looking like, we can start knitting and designing our pattern. I have here my pattern. Let me see if I can get closer. You see, basically this is just a tabard, so it's a front and a back with a slightly shaped shoulders. It's got a rib welt, just a small one I want, and a neckline, a round neck. I've got here, let me just show you. Can you see this thing here? 0 with a line through it. That means the center point of my knitting machine bed, which is here, dead center. That means that's half of the jumper. So if I work out my tension swatch and find out that 20 stitches are equal to the width I want, I would put 20 here and 20 there, and I would know that that means 20 each side of 0. Then I put my row counter to 0 and I would work out, I want to do 20 rows ribs, say, so I write 20 there. Put my row counter back to 0 again at the bottom of the welt, and I find out how many centimetres it is till I want to mark my armpit. I put the markings there in, then I carry on knitting to the top of the back, and my tension swatch I'm about to knit will tell me how many rows that is, and then I will shape my shoulder. So that is all designed and done from the tension swatch I'm about to do. And tension swatches have these amazing things called magic rulers to use. You use a green one with this machine at the back, which is a standard normal gauge, and this is a chunky gauge, so we use a blue ruler, and on the front it has how many rows and stitches on the back. So let me just do a quick and simple loose E-wrap. I'm really not convinced this yarn's going to play properly. I don't like how it works on my machine already. It's just too thick, it's not pleasant, it's more like something maybe we'd use for weaving with or for possibly hand knitting. But let's see how we go on this chunky, which I had a chunky many years ago when I was a young girl knitting, and I did a few garments to order on it, but it never was my thing. The fluffy yarns made me sneeze, and the bulky yarns, well, I don't know, it just didn't get on with them. So let's see how this goes. So for the blue ruler, which I've dropped on the floor, excuse my head if you can see it, the blue ruler, I need 20 stitches and I need 30 rows are the measuring points that I measure between. So to do this, I have put on 15 stitches each side, and I'm just going to knit 5 or 6 rows of plain knitting firstly in the tension I've chosen, which is number 10. Put my ruler away, and I'm going to knit across. You see, that is stiff because it is the first row and I used an E-wrap, but it isn't very pleasant to knit. I wouldn't have to be that hard with my normal gauged machine on the first row. This is quite a horrible yarn, basically, is what I've decided. Let me just press pause for a moment. Right, my daughter was doing something in the kitchen, making an awful noise, so that's why I stopped for a second. And I've knitted those first few rows here. I'm going to take out my yarn, and I'm going to knit the marking row. So I'm going to measure between the marked stitches and rows. Oh, this is horrible to get out to the machine. I'm going to moan constantly about this yarn to knit with because it's just not very pleasant. I'm going to put in a contrasting thread yarn to knit 2 rows with, which would be much nicer to knit with. If I had enough of this to knit the garment in, I would. 1, 2. I'm going to break the yarn. And I'm going to choose, I want 2 lengths, 2 sets of markers, so that's 4 pieces of yarn in total I've chopped here, and I will show you what I mean. So change back now to the main yarn that we're going to use and complain about. Tension dial is number 10, row counter is at 0, and row counter is on. I'm going to knit now, so the tension swatch has to have let's see, 30 rows. So I'm going to knit 10 rows, mark 10 rows, and then I will knit 10 rows and finish. Let me show you. 1, pulling down at this side where the yarn's just being awkward. I've not knitted that stitch too well. 1, 2, still not liking that end stitch. 3, 4. I think this is right at the edge of what this machine can knit, this yarn. 5, 6, and it's looped there, but still I can cope with that on this. 7. You know, this is awful, this yarn. Let's try it with some weights on. I think I am not going to knit my garment out of this. This is just too difficult. Let's put that on. Put this on here. Put some more on. Now, I bought this because this is not, it is as loose as this machine can knit. The yarn is not very nice to use. It's jammed again. So I'm going to show you how I get my, let's see if I can tilt this up so I can see what's happened. I'm going to get the carriage off, putting it round to the KR lever. The KC's gone on to KR. Taking that out of my work. Taken off the front sinker plate. I give up. This yarn is not for me. I'm going to take the weights off. I'm going to go rummaging for some more yarn. Take these and put them there. Take this horrible yarn off. See, it doesn't even want to knit it off the machine. So this is obviously, yeah, it's too thick. It's not nice. So that is how not to do a tension swatch. Join me later on when I start again and do it for you again. Bye everybody.